Hello again, fellow computer and technology enthusiasts. Once again, it's me, RiggerM71. I recently decided that it was long past time to update the 10-year-old case that houses my main computer. Based on my need for something I could use for gaming and video editing, as well as something designed for silence, I finally decided on the Corsair Carbide 330R Blackout Edition. I pondered a number of options, including the Fractal Design R5, as well as the Cooler Master Silencio 652S. But in the end, I decided on the 330R. There's really not much difference between many of the various silent cases available. I mean, if you've seen one black box, you've probably seen another. However, the 330R had dimensions that matched the size of the rather small desk that I use. It also had several features that I liked, such as a front and bottom dust filter, 3-speed fan control, and front-mounted ports, switches, and LEDs. Now, as for the case that I'll be removing my system from, prepare yourself for the Antec Sonata. No, not the Sonata 3 or even the Sonata 2, this is the original deal. I believe it was introduced in 2004, and I've had mine for about that long. Over the years, it's been the home of multiple systems. Antec was one of the first companies to focus their efforts on providing silent solutions for PC builders. Many of the features they introduced are still used by manufacturers, and some have obviously been discarded. Regardless, this case has simply become too old to be practical. The front USB ports are unusable due to the fact that they're USB 1. There also just aren't enough fan mounting options to comfortably house the majority of modern gaming systems. I'm actually amazed I was able to use it for as long as I did. So based on all of this, I armed myself with a screwdriver, a digital camera, and a can-do attitude. Coupled with narration describing what I'm actually doing, the result is a kind of photo build log of my experience transferring my system into the new case from the old. I must apologize in advance for the quality of several of the photos. The lighting in my kitchen isn't exactly the greatest, and my camera not the newest. I would have loved to be able to use actual video, but since I don't have a dedicated camera operator or extra arms growing out of my back, it really wasn't possible. It's just me here, guys. Anyway, the resulting photographic method worked pretty well. So enough setup. Let's roll the titles and build a computer! We begin this adventure with an unboxing of the 330R itself. The box is pretty large and the case is held in place by two pieces of the hard foam most commonly seen in case boxes. At the risk of sounding like Linus from Linus Tech Tips, I probably would have preferred the thicker, softer stuff, but from a cost perspective, I understand why they used the more traditional type. The only other things in the box were the large plastic bag that covered the case and a brief quick start guide. We've now moved to my dining room table. Here you can see the assortment of items I generally gather before building a computer. A stubby Phillips screwdriver for those hard-to-reach spots, a regular Phillips, some spare zip ties, a small pair of cutters, an extra bag of screws, the accessory box that came with the case, and the quick start guide. The quick start guide is kind of pointless. The only information it really gives you is a brief list of the various screws contained in the accessory box. I guess Corsair assumes most people know what they're doing. Here's a quick tip. If you want to make any regular screwdrivers you have laying around into magnetic versions, simply pick up one of these magnetizers. You can also change them back to normal by using the demagnetizer part. Apologies for the blurry photo. Now it's time to start removing components from the Sonata. You can see our patient here with its front door removed. Technically the door is supposed to be on a hinge, but that of course broke off years ago. Apparently this was a common problem with the original Sonata and caused Antec to later redesign the door for the Sonata 2. Here's a shot of the side panel off, which should give you an idea of the layout inside. The power supply is mounted at the top and supported by a rail that's riveted in. Yeah, it can't be removed, which used to make swapping out the supply somewhat of an issue. There's just enough room for an ATX motherboard, and unlike newer cases, there's no space behind the motherboard to route cables. I made do and simply stuffed extra cabling under the optical drive. It worked well enough. Moving forward, I've now unplugged the majority of the cables from the motherboard, as well as removed the graphics card. Since we've got that pesky rail in the way, the motherboard will have to come out before the power supply. Here's a shot of my graphics card. It's a Radeon R7 260X from Sapphire. It may not be the fastest kit on the block, but it has been good to me. I'm not a rich man, so it will have to be good to me for a bit longer. It continues to run most newer games at 1080p and with high to medium settings. I can't ask for much more than that. Next up is one of the two Seagate 1TB hard drives that I'm using. This is the main drive. The other is actually from my previous build and is just used for storage. The metal drive tray is from the Sonata. There are rubber grommets under the drive and it's screwed in from the bottom of the tray. Once again, the Sonata was one of the first cases to introduce removable and insulated drive mounting. Here's the motherboard finally removed from the case with CPU, cooler, and memory still attached. The board is a 970A D3P from Gigabyte. A little dusty, but none the worse for wear. Not the prettiest board in the world, but I got it cheap from Newegg bundled with my AMD FX 6300. The memory consists of dual 4GB sticks of G.Skill Sniper Series DDR3 1866 for a total of 8GB in dual channel. The cooler is actually the newest thing here and is a Deepcool Iceblade 200M. It uses two 92mm fans on either side of the heatsink. I've had it for a couple months and it does keep the CPU nice and cool, even under load. With the motherboard out of the way, we're finally able to remove the power supply. In this particular case, it's a Thermaltake TR2 600W. As with many of the components in my system, it can be pointed out that this supply isn't the greatest. However, I've used two of these in the past and had good luck with both of them. I actually have another brand new one still in the box, but considering this is only around a year and a half old, we're just going to be dusting it out a bit and using it in the new case. I know it works, so that's one less unknown thing to deal with. The last thing we have to remove from the Sonata is the optical drive. I have a large library of games and applications stored on disks, so I do still have need for one. It's a DVD-CD burner from HP. At some point I will probably pick up a Blu-ray burner, it just hasn't happened yet. This will do for now, and should be fine in the new case. Here's a photo commemorating the end of an era. After 10 plus years, the Sonata sits empty. No worries though, as I will probably find some use for it. It may begin a new life as a media PC or as a simple storage server. Regardless, I will be keeping it for something. So this seems like a good place to stop part 1 of the build. We've unboxed the 330R, gathered all the necessary tools, and removed all of the components from the old case. In part 2, we will of course actually be putting everything into the 330R. I hope you'll join me for that. I also hope you enjoyed this part. If so, you are more than welcome to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, or leave a comment below the video. So until next time, take care, and of course, have fun.